YouTuber. So in this video, we are going to determine whether you should buy the Ryzen 9 3900X, the Ryzen 9 5900X, or a i9 12900K. So let's get started looking at a couple places at what the cost of these will be. Now the 5900X, surprisingly on eBay, $459.99. This is actually from a reputable dealer on here, and Ant Online. I bought quite a few from this guy. That is, you know, pretty darn good, right? So $459. I don't see any other ones. These are all being bid on. You're not going to beat that at Amazon, but we'll check in a little bit. 3900X, okay, I do have one of these. And if we wanted to buy one new, somebody gives me $450. I'll take $450 for mine. $519, okay? So, pretty much right there, at least on eBay. Is there really a reason to even consider the 3900X? We haven't even looked at any performance comparisons, but I'm going to expect that the 5900X is much better, right? You guys all know that. i9 12900K. Checking the eBay price. For a new one, $599. Who's selling this one? Ant Online. $599. So that is significantly more. Significantly more than the best price on a 5900X, right? $599. Now, you could make this a little more fair comparison. We could look at the KF, which doesn't have integrated graphics. But guess what? They're more expensive on here. So you could throw that one out. All right, at least on eBay. So far on eBay, the best price is on the 5900X. Let's check Amazon. 5900X, $523. So just to, with the $40 off coupon, so $483. It wasn't that long ago. I think you could get one for $479 on here, $469. But it does not look like that is available anymore. So eBay is where you want to go for the 5900X at the moment. 39. We were looking for the 3900X here, $549. So without even, looking at performance, we pretty much already know that the 3900X could drop off, right? Because the 5900X has to be better CPU. It's a newer CPU, right? It's another Ryzen 9. It's got to be better. Let's look at Amazon for the i9 12900K. Guess what? They don't have any. There is none available. So what does that tell you, folks? We could also look at the KF. And $671. So not really a good deal at all. All right. Let's look at some benchmarks. 3900X up against 5900X according to user benchmark. This is one of the only places I can go to really compare these without having, I've got the 3900X, got 5800X, got a 3600XT, blah, 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 but I don't have the 5900X to compare here. So we're having to go off other people's info. But, supposedly 5900X is 18% better. They've ranked it 14th. And I can tell you, for gaming, 3900X is a dog. Why is that? Well, come down here and look at the scoring of the first course, all this stuff, right? 5900X is going to be a lot better. Pretty much any recent Intel CPU is going to be higher than this. Now, where are these guys going to be comparative? 8 core now. What about 64? So even that, you know, that is a pretty darn good 64 core score. And the 5900X is better. So hands down, price and performance, you would want to pick the 5900X over the 3900X. So we can just drop the 3900X from further discussion. Let's look at 12900K versus 5900K. So you see, this is potentially the second best CPU available. Now, the KF is, they've got it ranked number 1, but there aren't enough of those that have been purchased to really give you a good idea who's really 1, who's number 2. So, what do we see here? Number 2, 14. This tells you, you know, speed-wise that the 12900K is the better CPU, at least for gaming. Look at how much higher these scores are. This is ridiculous to see this score this high. Man, this is pretty impressive, folks. So 8 core. Now if we go to 64, where I would think that the 5900X would have hung in, it is absolutely demolished. So with that said, who is the best CPU for performance and multi-core tasking? That would be the 12900K. Now, if you're looking at this and you're doing CPU mining, let's throw that in here as well, okay? Because some of you are on here looking at this for the purpose of doing CPU mining. So I don't think we're going to find the 12900K on here, but we'll see. What do they got? No, they don't have it. Let's just put the best Intel has on here, okay? So here's the score of the 5900X. It's somehow not as good as, wait a second, 3900. Delete that out. Okay, going back to this. So 5900X is slightly better than the 3900X. So if the price was not significantly different, you know, the 3900X nowadays costs more, maybe you would consider this if all you're going to do is CPU mining. But the fact is, this price is way better. Therefore, you would go with the 5900X. Now, they don't show the 12900K. There hasn't been, I don't believe, much of a change in L3 cache. So this number, you know, if you're lucky, it's a little better than this. But the 5900X is going to be the best for CPU mining. All right. Now, let's talk gameplay. And I've just grabbed a couple of screenshots off here. Gaming wise, you know, just like we saw in the benchmarks that they're saying the 12900K is better, you can see at least a 5% increase over the 5900X in Cyberpunk, depending on what your CPU or your graphics card is. And then in this guy's example, whoever this is, he has the 12900K significantly higher than everybody else, using DDR4 RAM instead of DDR5. So kind of weird. Sometimes, you know, I wonder if you can trust half these guys. But this is just crushing the 5900X. So, you know, this is going to boil down to what do you need the CPU for, right? For me, I think the 5900X is probably the way to go. So things we didn't talk about so far are motherboard costs. I can get away with a B550 motherboard, full ATX, we could get this cheap ass rock piece of you know what, okay, $89.99. We could probably find a B550M somewhere that is even cheaper, I would think. But $89 for that, you know. Let's look at how much a Z690 costs. The cheapest you'll find usually is about 180, I think 189 on here, but it's out of stock. So the cheapest now should be 219 if I can find one of them. There you go, this one. Not necessarily that sexy, but so if we tack all this stuff together, a motherboard is going to cost at least $100 more. Okay, a CPU, which we didn't mention, that also is going to need a CPU cooler, so at least $50 to $100 there. So we got a more expensive motherboard, more expensive CPU, and a CPU cooler. If by chance you could afford to upgrade your graphics card, spending more on the graphics card, you probably would see better performance, depending on the game, by upgrading the graphics cards 1 or 2 levels, right? So with that, I'm going to say $300 savings. If you were to go from, let's say, a 3060 to a 3070 or a 3070 Ti, you would see a significant increase. So that would be a better use of your money, in my opinion. So I'm going to say, you know, being an Intel guy that I am, and you'll see my channel, Intel is where it's at for the most part. But I've got to say that the Ryzen 9 5900X is the preferred heavy-duty CPU based on its price mainly. Not as much on the performance, but you know, the fact that it is going to cost you so much more does not really make it worth spending the extra money. All right, folks, if you have not liked and subscribed, please do that now. And thanks for checking out my video.